China's new Silk Road has become the biggest trade project in world history. The BRI has already lifted tens of millions of people out of poverty, and it's just getting started. And as the BRI meets the BRICS, well, the world's going to be totally transformed. Now, this extraordinary single-decade miracle is being celebrated in China, but getting very little coverage internationally. So here are some perhaps surprising facts you need to know about it. The BRI is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, facilitator of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, said Douglas Flint, former HSBC chairman. The BRI is raising people from poverty by giving them jobs. And by doing that, it's reducing inequality and feeding the hungry. The projects are also following environmental protection guidelines, which of course is very important. The project has already lifted almost 40 million people out of poverty, according to BRI statistics. Here's a factoid for you. The British originally were interested in joining the project, but leaders mysteriously changed their minds after the US took a negative posture. Oh, what a surprise. China says that about 150 countries have signed up. Statista agrees, having counted at least 149 participating nations when they last counted. Now, the United Nations has 193 member states, so we're talking about more than 3 out of 4 countries being part of this. More than 3,000 individual projects have been started. That's railways, airports, schools, highways, bridges, other items of infrastructure. This picture from Vientiane in Laos shows 2 projects intersecting. The total investment is estimated at $1 trillion. Now, China's 2 main development banks have provided more than 330 billion to developing countries, says a study by Boston University. The United States has repeatedly said that China's global infrastructure and investment deal is a terrible idea, and then tried to copy it. The US has tried to copy it at least 3 times. Now, the latest copy, launched last year, is called Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. Right? Yeah, it sounds exactly the same as the BRI, right? The European Union's executive branch has also criticised the BRI efforts to create their global trade gateway, and the EU also introduced a copy of it called the Global Gateway. The latest Western copy of the BRI is called the Economic Corridor and runs through the Middle East. Prospects for smooth implementation of that one not looking too good at the moment. President Joe Biden called the BRI a debt and noose agreement. But economists in the West and the East say that categorization is deeply unfair. Such accusations are very insulting to developing countries, said Kishore Mahbubani of Singapore. Geopolitical experts say the growth of the BRI shows a sharp divergence in focus between the tiny but dominant West and the huge but underappreciated rest of the world. China is focusing on development of poorer nations around the globe, while the West is driven by the US military-industrial media complex. Diversion of more public money to the arms industry has been taking place in all 27 EU nations, plus of course the US and the UK and Australia. The Western media is using its standard technique. The reporters endlessly criticise the BRI, then they report the criticism as if it comes from someone else. The massive undertaking has been plagued by criticism, CNN reports. Yes, CNN, criticism by you and your buddies. Representatives from some 130 countries and 30 global organisations are in Beijing for the meeting, so it is getting world support. And talking of that meeting, the Western media is also doing another rather deceptive trick at the moment. It's focusing on the presence of people they're dedicated to demonizing. A good example is the coverage by the NPR, which reports the view of observers. Now, the word observers is a well-known journalistic term, which means me and my mates. NPR's extremely sour coverage says, observers are scrutinizing the geopolitical implications of the initiative, and they say the list of high-profile attendees says it all. Russian President Vladimir Putin is on board. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is in town too. And Afghanistan's ruling Taliban, not formally recognized by any government, say they are coming too. What about the other 127 odd countries present? NPR chooses not to list them. Why is it so important for Western leaders and media to cover up the news about the BRI? Because the Chinese are on the record as saying there is a need for transcending the old mindset of geopolitical games and creating a new paradigm of international cooperation. Cooperation? Nations working together? This is considered a very, 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 very bad idea by Western leaders.
Unfortunately, the present ongoing effort to demonize China coming from the US, the UK, and the G7 is based on a combination of fear and virtual total ignorance of both modern China and the great history of over 5,000-year-old civilization.
But you know what? I think if Western people, not politicians or journalists, but Western ordinary people, if they heard about this, they would think that transcending the old mindset of geopolitical games and creating a new paradigm of international cooperation, they would think that that is rather a good thing. Please share this video so that as many people as possible can get this truth. Peace.